Okay, so we've got our applesauce here, and I put a half a cup in this great big bowl, and it's going to end up making at least 8 quarts of applesauce. So you can kind of do the math on that and figure out how much sugar per quart. So what we're going to do is, I've got my canning funnel, and we're going to fill this so that it has a 1/2 inch head space. Now I've got a little bit too much there, so I like to have a little tablespoon or something. Now with applesauce, you don't have as much problem as like with tomatoes as far as getting the air bubbles out, but you do want to make sure that you run something. I use this spatula handle, and it doesn't scratch the glass, leave little tiny scratches on the inside of the glass, so that's good. And you want to just run this along the edge, just to work out any air bubbles. Now air bubbles are going to have little bacteria, little microscopic stuff. You really don't want in there, and you don't want the air either, because they will spoil, your product will spoil faster that way. So just want to kind of make sure that's like that. And I've got this nifty little tool here. This is new for me this year. I'm having fun with it. And it measures head space, and so for applesauce I want a 1/2 inch. So I just make sure, look at, there it is, a 1/2 inch. And so that's cool. We've got it all done just right, like we're supposed to. And I've got one more jar to fill here, so we'll fill this jar. Now I'm going to put these in my steam canner, and I'll show you that in a minute. I can only put 6 quarts in my steam canner. I could fit 7, but they're a little too tight that way. And because it's a steam canner, you want to make sure that you have plenty of circulation around those jars so that all of the jars can be nicely steamed equally. So get the air bubbles out of this. Then I'm going to take a clean canning towel, and I want to clean off the lid. We really should have, before we even filled these jars, made sure that there were no chips or cracks in the top of this glass, because any gap in that space between the lid and the jar is going to make it so that that doesn't seal. And that's why we don't bang our spoons on here or anything like that. We're real careful with this glass to keep the integrity of this glass. So we're going to wipe this lid. Now I've got my lids over here, and they're hot. So in this little kettle I have the lids that I need, and I've got this really cool jar lifter, so you don't have to get your fingers in the boiling hot water. So this is a regular size jar. I'm going to put the regular size lid on it, and I'm going to tighten it down. Just nice and snug there. Nothing, you don't have to get out a wrench or anything. Okay, so we'll get this one. And I do tend to use either Kerr or ball lids. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was saying, these lids, the rubber on them is just so skimpy. I don't know what kind she was using, but I have read other places where some of the offbeat brands just don't have the quality of seal. So you go to all this work and the time and the expense, don't skimp on your lids. That's another thing you just don't want to do. Okay, we're almost there. We've almost got these all done. There's a little bit of a bubble in this one. We're going to take the time to get this out of here. You just don't know how long that's going to want to sit on my shelf. Probably not long, because we really do like this. You just want to make sure that there's nothing there to get in the way of the rubber seal with the glass. Alright, so now we're going to put them in the canner. And my steam canner's over here. You'll notice that there's just not much room now for water. It's not like the water bath. I have a water bath as well. This heats up less water, takes less time. You're not putting a jar that maybe isn't quite as hot as it should be into hot boiling water, so you're not taking the chance of that jar breaking. I just love this. But I do have this as well. I do use a water bath. Okay, so let's put the rest of these jars on here. Again, just 6 jars on the water bath. I can get 7, but this just needs to make sure and have a little space around every one of those jars. Okay, so we'll put the lid on that. In that, the water in this, I fill it till it's almost to the rack that I set the jars on, and then just a little glug of vinegar keeps it from the aluminum pan that doesn't have any contact with my food from turning black. So just a little bit of vinegar with the water and put the lid on it, and I process it the same amount of time as I do a water bath. So I think it's about 40 minutes for quarts. And I do follow like Ball Blue Book, those kinds of things to make sure that that is the right amount of time. Now, I know that some people will say, well, I can just put my lid on that jar and it seals. That isn't the whole story. You want that to seal, but you also want the contents inside to be hot enough so that it kills any bacteria or anything like that, because you really don't want to have some kind of food poisoning from this. So that's why everything needs to just be, you keep your jars hot, you have them sterilized and clean, and everything is kept clean through your process. So we're going to turn this on, we'll process it, and we'll take them out, and we'll set them on our table over here and let them cool. Now once they come out of there, I don't like to touch them until like the next day, because you don't want to take the chance of your seal being jeopardized at all with wiggling around too much or whatever. You want that seal to be really good and solid before you move that jar again. So then I'll wash the jars. I'll actually bring a dish pan full of warm soapy water, not too hot, and then I'll set them out on the grass and I'll spray them off with water to just rinse them. It's a really fast way, and then I dry them and store them. Do take the rings off because mold can get under there and it can weaken your seal and so forth. So you do want to take the rings off before you wash the jars, and they do get kind of sticky, so you really do have to wash those. Otherwise mold and so forth can grow in all of that, and you can attract rodents and bugs and so forth. So you want to just store them real clean too.